All right, so here is where I want to walk you through the logic of why it's important to do a buyer, seller, or renter consultation. So on page 2 of your handout, the first thing we're going to set the stage for, if you will, is understanding the personality types. Now, I'm a certified DISC instructor as well, so it's the D, the I, the S, and the C. If you've not heard of that, I know there's lots of different personality assessments that are out there. This one is the D, stands for the dominant. It's the my way, the highway kind of person sometimes. They can be very direct, straightforward, bottom line thinker. On the I personality type, they are very much of the outgoing, charismatic, they want to have a good time, people-orientated. So it's important to know just a little bit about each of the personality types because it's going to tie in as you start working with someone. Your S is someone that is very steady. They want to know there's a system. They want to know there's a checklist. They want to know that everything's mapped out in order. They want to know that you are going to take them methodically from start to finish of the transaction. Okay? Your C personality type is the one that's very compliant. They will dot the I's and cross the T's. Don't you dare try to cut a corner because they ain't going to be having it. They are very analytical. They want to know the facts. They are the ones that will read everything in your buyer-seller consultation. They will read everything in the contract. Don't rush them. They're going to read it. Your I is going, where do I sign? The D is going, wait a minute, I have a question. All right. So again, this is a whole class in itself, but I want to give you a quick snippet of the 4 typical personality types that are out there and how and why that plays a role in your buyers and seller consultation. Okay? So with that, there's also roles into the learning style. So your D is very big picture, fast paced, they're an independent learner, and they want to know what's in it for me. Your I is, again, fast-paced, interactive, fun. They want to know that everybody's having a good time. They're the ones hosting the parties. And they also kind of want to know who else is doing it. Your C is the thinker. If you're not a C and you got a client who is off the Richter scale and you're a high I or a D, they're going to drive you nuts, but it's okay. Because they are very slow in their pace. They're the ones that want to think about it. Because their biggest fear is being taken advantage of or making a bad decision. They're very structured. They're scheduled, methodical, and that's how they want to work. Now, your S's, they're going to listen to everything. They're going to take it all in. They may ask you to repeat. They're going to ask if they can take notes. Okay, you're going to give them a buyer or seller consultation, and they're going to ask, can I jot down notes? That's your S. Okay, and you always say yes. Okay. Again, this is just a 30,000 foot or 50,000 foot overview of the personality types. Now, within that, we also learn in one of 3 ways. We are either visual, we need to see it. We're auditory, we need to hear it. We're kinesthetic, it's all about the feeling and doing it. And truth be told, we're a little bit of all of the above. We all have DISC in our makeup. Some may be higher, some may be lower, some may be all like, you know, kitty wampus in there. The same thing with our learning style. Some need to hear it, see it, say it. That's why kids, when they're in an environment that is not supporting their learning style, it's not that they're dumb. The teacher is talking to them in a different language. I'm not getting on that soapbox, but big mistake in education. And I will tell you, and my daughter knows I get to talk about her at times. My daughter in middle school, math, she wasn't getting it. I told her it was genetic. She was in trouble because it was genetic. She struggled with math. Now, reading, history, she's in middle school performing at a high school, college level. Math, you might as well have talked to her in Chinese. So I got a chance to meet one of the parents who was coming in, had just moved in the area, so I was giving a tour of the school and chatting with him. Come to find out, he had been a professor at MIT. The man had a few brains, way more than mine. So we got talking about learning styles, and I'm thinking, this is right up my alley. So one of the questions I asked him, I said, why is it that students will excel in some categories and just absolutely fall apart in the other? And he said, basically, because that's what he'd been studying for a long time, is how the brain functions and how the brain learns, is because most of the time they are trying to be taught, and he says goes for adults as well, that's us, they're trying to be taught in a format or a platform that doesn't work for them. He says in school they're dictated with how much time and how they present the material. He says if you've got a kid that needs to be hands-on, they're losing it. So, but he also said that math and science comes from a different part in our brain than all the other stuff comes from. So that made perfect sense. So okay, so this is even funny. In high school, I told her, I said, positive attitude and effort. That's all we can ask for. Because I say everything else was off the Richter scale. And I think she got a C- or a D or something in math on one quarter. And I just happened to see her math teacher at high school at an event, and he said something about it. And I said, well, at least makes her report card a little interesting. I said, I'm getting tired of seeing straight A's all the time. He had to get, I think, both feet out of his mouth before he could answer that. And who am I standing next to? The principal. Principal later told me, I'll have a conversation with him. I says, it's not that she's not capable of learning. It's not that she's, not trying and doing the homework. I told her one time it was genetic. What can she do? But when she did finally figure out how to take the year I was born and calculate what we were in and come up with an age, that was when I said, okay, that's enough math. Yeah, got it. But what it reinforced is people learn in different styles, in different ways. And this ties right into a buyer consultation. Because what are you trying to do? You are trying to educate them on the process from start to finish of a buyer transaction. That is why I set the stage with that information. Because once you kind of understand that, then it's going to relate to why and how each of the parts of a buyer consultation become important. So we're going to go through some things that we like to cover in buyer consultations, and then wrap it around with how your D, your I, your S, your C responds and reacts to it, and also why it's important to have it that you can hand it to them. Because again, we're all of some of the above. So they need to have it. And by the way, for some of your S's, they will take that buyer consultation, and if there is any grammatical or typos in it, they will point it out to you, just so you know. Okay? They will find a mistake in the contract, just so you know, which is good. All right? So again, that's kind of setting the stage just a smidge for you in the D, the I, the S, and the C personality types. What you will discover as we move on to page 4 of the handout, let me make sure I'm good here. Yes, that was on page 3. On page 4 of the handout, how, obviously, without massive training, how can you catch on to whether they're hearing, seeing, they need to feel it. What you will tune your ear to is they may ask something along the line of, I hear the market is da 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 da. I hear interest rates are going up. I hear this is happening. I hear this is happening. That is typically the auditory because they've heard it. If you have someone that says, I see the market is starting to shift, or I see the market is starting to move, or I see the whatever, they are basically a visual person. If you hear them say, I feel the market is shifting, I feel that things are getting better, I feel, that is more of that kinesthetic, because it's all kind of emotion, hands-on driven type thing. Now, you cannot rely on that in and by itself, because someone who's very much of all of the above, which can happen, and no, they're not psycho, you will hear in one sentence, they will hear, I've heard that this is happening, I see that this is happening, or I feel that this is where we're going to go. So they may throw it all at you at once, and you know what, it's okay. Now that you got your radar up, you can at least respond back to them in a similar platform. It's called mirroring. Okay, and you've all heard the term when you're mirroring someone, you are, if they're leaning back, you lean back. If they lean forward, you lean forward. If they start, doing this, then you start doing this with them, okay? So you slightly mirror them. So if they say, I hear the market's picking up, a response you can give is, I'm hearing that as well. So it's validating them, and then you can elaborate on it from there. Okay? If they've said something about, I see the market is starting to shift, then you can say, you know what, I'm seeing that as well. Based off my research and my experience, this is what I'm seeing as well. So again, you're connecting with them on a level that is priceless. If they say something along the lines of, I feel the market is getting better, I feel that as well. Based off what I'm seeing and on what I'm hearing, so you're kind of hitting them both, this is what we're seeing is happening. Based off my research, I keep my finger on the pulse, I keep an eye on what's going on, this is what we're starting to see. So you mirror them slightly with a couple of those buzzwords, and you now have a connection with them. Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you, and this is more on the listing side, but it also works on the buyer side as well. So how many of you have ever had a consultation with a client? And, okay, first off, who's had a consultation with a client? Give me a thumbs up, okay? And you walked out there going, nailed it, nailed it. And you're like, yes, I got this, I rocked it. Okay? And then a couple days later, you found out they signed or went with another agent. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm getting a thumbs up here in class. All right? The reason that happened, more than likely, is because you didn't connect with them on their style. You gave them information that was not important to them. It was important to you. They don't care half the time. They want to know, are you hearing them? Are you connecting with them? Are you paying attention to them? And this is where ego marketing will get you in a heap loads of trouble. So when you're able to connect with them and know enough about this, the basics, to be dangerous, you will up your odds of securing that buyer or securing that listing successfully without having that happen. So this would be something I would encourage you to go back and kind of review. Yes, eventually we're going to be doing a whole mini series of classes on the DISC personality types and how it really, you get into the weeds with it. But I wanted to give you that 30,000 foot overview and how and why that connects. Okay. What is the purpose of doing a buyer consultation? Because I sometimes hear agents say, oh, I never do them. Yeah, and your business sucks, by the way. Sorry. I don't say that, I think it. There's a difference. But what is the purpose of doing a consultation? The main purpose is for you who is supposed to be the expert in this industry, to set the tone, to set the agenda, to set the expectation, and address some of the problems that are going to come up before they ever come out of their mouth. So you are setting the agenda of how it's going to go forward. It is basically an interview between you and the client to see, am I a good match for you? Do I understand what you need? Am I able to provide that? And if they are unrealistic from the get-go, you do have a right to fire a client or to walk away. Now, I know for a lot of new agents that just sends shivers up their spine. Save you a few gray hair and drinking after hours or during business hours, one of the two. It is okay to release or fire a client. It is okay to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm getting thumbs up here, okay? So who's ever had to do that? Who's ever had to fire a client? Oh, all hands are up just about. If it's not a good match, it's not a good match. If it's not a good match. I had one that I had to fire, and it was a family friend that had known me since I was little. When he had bought a beautiful house, the layout of it was phenomenal. His wife had passed away, so he never moved into it. He used it as a rental. And he proceeded to contact me because he knew I was in real estate at that point to help him, you know, with the rental side of it. So, but then he proceeded to tell me who he would and would not allow in the house. Okay, I'm getting red flags all here. Yeah. So I did the right thing by, you know, and I told him, I said, I'm sorry, but I cannot do that. Okay. I have taken my obligation and my ethics and my code of conduct seriously. I will not do that. And if that is what you expect, I think it's best that we stop this right here and you can go find another unethical, low-life agent that is willing to do it. Because I am not going to risk my reputation, but more important, my license over this. But later his kids thanked me. Yeah, he was mad at first until they jumped all over him. But it's okay if you've got a client that they've got a fixer-upper in a pit area and they want to list it for $1.2 million. I'm sorry, they're unrealistic. It's okay to back up and say, you know what, I'm not sure if we're a good match. Let me do some more research on this property before we go forward. Same thing on the buyer side. This is a little side bonus technique, you may want to jot it down. One of the things that I used to do was when I would do the needs assessment, which we'll talk about, is I would find out what areas they were interested in, obviously, you know, what they were looking for. And I had one client one time that had a certain amount of money, and it was a lot of money to her. And then she gave me the 4 areas she was interested in. So I went into my little, I'm thinking right away going, I'm not sure this is going to be a match. So I go into my Bright MLS and I run a search of all properties in that zip code or in that area. The starting point of the worst property in that area, I'm just going to make up a number for the example, was at $350,000. She was at $250 for the example. There was a big gap, but that was the price point in that area. So one of the things I learned to do was how to create a grid of an average. What is the entry level, what is the mid-range, and what is the upper price point in that area currently in the market. And I was able to bring that back to her and say, okay, based off the research I've done and the stats, here's what we got. And again, it wasn't me telling her, hey lady, you're not qualified for that area. What are you thinking? Based off my research and the stats, here's the documentation of what's available in those areas, and it starts at this price point, starts at this price point, starts at this price point. And she was then able to say, oh gosh, I guess I'm gonna need to look in another area. I'm thinking, but it came from her, not from me. What most people are looking for from you is to provide them information. So, and I've always said, part of my job is to be your advocate, your consultant, and your PPS. And for those that don't know what the PPS is, it is the professional problem solver. And yes, I used to have that on my business card, on my signature line, on my name badge. I was your advocate, consultant, and PPS. Because part of your job as an agent is to solve the problems. And starting with a buyer consultation is going to eliminate a lot of those problems that are going to come up. So by having that information to her, she was able to make an informed, intelligent decision. Beginning of all my consultations, I would say part of my job is to be your advocate, your consultant, your PPS, provide you information on the current market, not what it was 2 months ago, not what the crystal ball says it may be in 2 months, but where it is right now, so that we together, or you can make an informed, intelligent decision. They loved it. Okay? Here is the danger of not doing a consultation. You get looked at, okay, you gave me permission. Here it comes. Here my heart. Forgive my mouth. You come across as lazy and inept. Yeah, I said that. But that is how they kind of look at you. You were too lazy to get them information. And don't you ever come back to me when you got a problem in a transaction and says, but I told him about it. Because I will chew your head off in a cute way. I told him about it? No. Was it in writing? Were they able to see it? Were they able to visualize it? Then you might as well told them the moon was full of cheese and you were going there for lunch. You cannot rely on, well, I told them about it. They're getting so much information coming at them so fast, they can't process it all. But when you have the consultation in writing that you can say, we're going to go over some things that are going to be important, and you give them a highlighter to mark or put a little star, smiley face, whatever, on the pages that are important, you don't read the whole consultation to them verbatim start to finish. You go over what are the important components and the things that they need to remember. I always started with my consultations and sitting down going, first off, may I have your permission to be blunt and honest with you? Tell you what you need to know and not always what you want to hear. And they're okay with that. Good, because when that day comes that you need to have that conversation with them, you go, okay, remember the day that you gave me permission to be blunt and honest with you? Yeah, guess what? Today's the day. And it softens that blow. Now, if you come at them with, well, I told you blah, 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 blah. Okay, they're going, well, who do you think you are? Okay, so that technique works extremely well in any type of consultation or interaction from the very beginning. Now, I'm going to throw this in as a bonus because it's not in the notes here, but it'll be coming in when we do the full thing, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. One of the things I always shared with my clients, because the majority of my business was repeat or referral. So if you referred me to her, I'm going to be meeting with her, and she's going to be going, okay, so I'm friends with her, she's friends with her. How much of my business are you going to be talking to with her about? So I always, again, overcame that objection straight from the beginning before it ever came out of their mouth or rolled through their head one more time. And I would tell them, I don't know if I need to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That was a good way to start it. I just wanted to let you know that I take my business very seriously, and I have a fiduciary responsibility to take care of you. Now, I know we have a common friend, but just so you know, our business is between you and I. You look them in the eye, and you never break eye contact with them while you're having this quick conversation. My commitment is to you. So anything regarding this transaction from this point forward, you want her to know something about it, you're going to tell her. I'm not. My job is to be your advocate, your consultant, yes, your PPS, and take good care of you along the process. I am honored that she introduced us, but this is a business transaction between you and I. You okay with that? Just so you know. I got to tell you, I did that one time when I first learned how to do that. I did that, and the client said, I'm glad you said that, because I was having second thoughts about hiring you because they had talked to another agent, but my friend said you were good and I needed to chat with you. But my concern was how much of my personal business was going to be shared with them. And I said, Zippo. So, does it happen? Yes. It may be going through their head. It may not have come out of their mouth. But the purpose of that consultation is to address things that are going to come up. Your consultation will be a living and breathing process. It is not a one and done. So as market shifts or things change, or you have a question that comes up once and it comes up a second time, I'm going to guess if it's come up once or twice, it's going to come up again. That may be something you need or want to add into your consultation. So that one was a good one. Let me go through a couple of quick bullet points with you of what is going to be parts of your consultation. And again, reworking some of this, it'll be available to you soon, but I just kind of want to get your brain starting to process how it goes. Most of us have some sort of introduction about ourselves and or the company. There are some people that are absolutely interested in knowing about you and the company. Others don't give a rip. They already know you. They don't care. They're not going to read it. That's fine. You still include it and leave it in there. One of the pages I have in there is my promise to you. That is my promise to you is to be your consultant, your advocate, your PPS, tell you what you need to hear, not always what you want to hear. Are you okay with that? That is where you get to address that. That would also be the time that you would say, hey, I know that I was referred to you or you were referred to me. I know we have a common friend. This is our business together. They're not involved in it. Okay? It gives you an opportunity to say what I'm looking for in a client. What I'm looking for in a client is one that will work with me, who will be honest with me, walk through this together. And again, when you get the handouts, all of this is mapped out. You do not need to rewrite it. I want to introduce you to the team that's going to come with me. When you hire me, there's a bunch of people behind me. No, you're not seeing ghosts. They're actually there. You may never see them, but there's a whole bunch of people that are behind me. And that would be, a potential lender, which they're going to meet the lender, title, and there's a lot of things that go on. So I let them know that when they hire me, and this is great if you're brand new, because when they hire you, they're also getting the team of seasoned experts that come with you. It has just elevated that I'm new, I'm scared. How are they going to know that? Okay, it's just elevated that whole thing, and it has taken that concern off their plate. Because if they know you're new or fairly new, they're going, that answers that one. The next one we have in there is reasons to buy a home. Again, I have a sheet that's, common reasons. I just say, these are some of the common reasons, but you tell me, why is it you're wanting to buy a home? Start listening. Now, whenever I did a buyer or seller consultation, I always had a notepad next to me with the pen right there. And when I asked those questions, I would write it down. Now, I may be writing and looking at them, and sometimes I'd have trouble going, what was it I wrote? Okay. And if you're right-handed, make sure your pen is on the right side, not on the left. I'm just saying. Okay. So what is the reason that you want to buy a home? That is going to be important. So I would circle that one. I would highlight that. I would grab out a lip liner or a lipstick and highlight that one as well, because that is absolutely something that you want to have that discussion with them over. And again, when you listen to Samson Jumpstart Session 1, we talk about your big why. I tell you how to use that big why and get to the bottom of the client's big why. And I give you examples of it. Okay? All right. The next thing you're going to talk about with them is the action plan. Do your S&Cs want an action plan? Oh, you're darn right they do. They want to know, what is the next step? What are you going to do? What is the next step? What needs to be done? What is the next step? What needs to be done? What is the next step? What needs to be done? You will become next step obsessed. We'll talk about that in a minute. So you're going to map out the action plan for them. Now, if this is the first time consultation, obviously the most important thing you need to determine is whether or not they can actually qualify. So this is putting the cart before the horse. We talk about it. I have my preferred lenders, which we all have a great resource right here to pull from your lenders from your office, have their cards in there. They need to select a lender and they need to have a conversation with a lender. Now, if they tell you, oh, I went online, I usually give them that look like, oh. Did they say you had a pulse? Okay, did they ask for any documentation? Okay. Then that gives you the opportunity to explain just a little bit your wisdom behind the online versus the actual talking to someone. Now, bonus tip. As our market is starting to juggle back a little bit, and I've been through all these markets before, once it starts juggling back a little bit and a buyer has several properties to choose from, you absolutely, and even in the other market, you absolutely need to know that they can purchase and that the lender has, you know who they are, has dotted the I's and crossed the T's. Because the online lenders, no offense, yes, there's an offense, if you can fog a mirror, oh yeah, you're qualified for $500,000 and you're working part-time at minimum wage somewhere. No, they're not. Okay? We've all seen it. 30% one time I heard of transactions fall apart because the lender was, once they got the documentation, and was not able to perform. Okay? When the market was crazy, not this last time, but years before, I had a lender that I would not get serious with taking a client out until I knew they had been through underwriting approval. I's were dotted, T's were crossed, documents were in, paperwork was in. Now I knew we were hitting it. And when I would submit an offer, I would let them know it was underwritten, approved. That carried as much weight as a cash offer did. Now, there's a side note to that. You better make sure that your client doesn't do anything stupid during the process of getting that loan process, because they assume, well, I've been approved. So they're going to go out and buy a boat because they're going to get a house that's got three-car garage. So the new truck is going to go in one slot, the new boat's going to go in the other, and the wife goes, oh, cool, let's go ahead and buy all new furniture. So they get ready to go to settlement. The lender pushes that button. Boom, 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 boom. They don't qualify for anything anymore. So we get into that one in a little more detail. So you need to get them to a lender. In the consultation is a list of stuff that basically is what they need to be able to produce to the lender immediately. The whole bullet point down. Now, what I would do, because I've done it, I would have that list. I would go to my in-house lender and say, hey, is there anything else besides what's here that you would like to have available right up front and immediate? And they'll take a look at it. They may add, they may not. And then you put that lender's business card and information at the bottom. Okay? Boom, there you have it. At that point, too, you let them know that until they are pre-approved and ready to go, the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, your hands are tied. Because if we're going to waste our time going out and seeing homes that you probably can't afford, let's go look at the $1 million stuff. Because they're a lot better. And I would tell them that. So until we know where you're, and here's another way to put it, until we know what your purchasing power is, not what you're qualified for, what is your purchasing power? Now, I would always go back to my lender and I would say, okay, what are they qualified for? What are they comfortable with? And I would often tell my client, those are the two things I want to know from the lender. I don't want to know what your FICO score is. I don't want to know all the other stuff. All I need to know, what are you qualified for, but what are you comfortable at? Because they may be sitting there thinking, okay, we've got relatives overseas. We travel once a year. I need this amount of money to be able to save through the course of the year to make that trip. I've got someone getting ready to go into braces. I've got something getting ready to go into college. So I don't want to be house poor and not be able to do these other things that are important. So I qualify for this, but I'm comfortable for this. That's what I want to know. And I'll tell you what, your clients will appreciate that. One of the things that used to drive me bonkers is, and I heard this one time recently, this is not one of the bang head here moments. This was the bang head here while my foot is in the door and I'm slamming the door on my foot. And I have my fingers in the door jamb, so I'm banging my head, slamming my foot, and get my fingers jammed in the door jamb at the same time. This agent had the, I'm going to say audacity. I'm stepping on toes now, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to tell you who it was. This agent had the audacity to tell a lender at a meeting, my job is to find them the house they want. Your job is to figure out how to fund them. Put your jaws back into place, gang. Yeah, that actually came out of her mouth. And we just sat there and went, I don't know, I wanted to know what drug she was on. Because she was delusional. I got nothing. I got nothing. So, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Because I will bang my head, slam my foot, and jam my fingers in the door casing. Whew. See, I tell you all the good stuff, the bad stuff, and the ugly stuff. It's part of what I get to do. So when you're working with your client, you definitely want to make sure they understand the importance of putting this together in order. The cart before the horse. We want to make sure that we've talked to a qualified lender. Qualified lender. And sometimes you've got to explain to them. You know, some of these online or banks even, they have one or two packages, and if you fit into their little square, you're good. But the benefit of going to a full lender is they have lots of packages available. They find out what your criteria is, and they then find the loan that best suits you. That's the difference. That's the basics of what you need to know. If they ask what interest rates are, say, I don't know, what's your blood pressure? Because it fluctuates. I've done it. She's laughing at me. Yeah, I have. I go, I don't know, what's your blood pressure right now? They would giggle. I go, same with interest rates. They fluctuate through the day. So it is about this range, but I'm not the expert. That's why I have my people. That's why I got my people, because they're the experts, all right? The next thing we talk about is basically the loan application information that they'll need to get started. I would then throw in some basic information, and right now this would be the one that I would put in. You can Google it, you can get it offline, you can go to your favorite lender in-house and ask them to provide you a copy of this and insert it into your buyer consultation. It is a chart that shows the interest rate over the last 30 years. We are still historically low. Now, are we at 2? No. Are we ever going to see that again? Probably not. But we're not going to see 19 and 20 either. Probably not. So where we're at now, people may be panicking that it's, oh my gosh, it's going up. It's still historically low. Based off the information that I have for you, this is what a 30-year recap of the interest rates have been. It's not you saying it necessarily. They can see it, they can hear it, they can touch it. That's where the beauty comes in. The who's pays for what, the funds needed, blah, 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 is all important in there. Now, one of the things that I have in my consultation is a report It's a free report. Yes, I have it. You need it. We'll get it to you. It is going to be in the consultation packet as well. You can go to your favorite lender and ask them to double check it as well. But it's things not to do during the loan process. Now, I have it in there. That's one of those pages we're going to pause because I'm going to go through it with them. These are things that you cannot do because I will hurt you as we go through the loan process. And it gives quitting your job, filing bankruptcy. Has that happened? Yes. Not to me it hasn't because they knew not to. You know, purchasing anything, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it just goes through everything. Then I tell them, I am as serious as a heart attack on this one. I want you to understand that if you, after qualifications, we find the house, we put an offer in, you've got your earnest money down, and you go and do something like this, you're at risk of not only losing your deposit, but getting sued. Does that sound like a fun thing to have happen? And they go, no. I said, you're signing this in blood. They laugh. I pull the red pin out of my and hand it to them. They either have to, and they giggle. And I says, you're either going to put your initials on it, a smiley face, a star, something. I want you to understand you're signing in blood, thus the red pin or felt pin, why this is so critical. That will stay with them. I had one time that called. She had a certain amount, a single gal, excited to buy her first house, had a certain amount in credit cards, everything was okay, had a certain amount of money. She hit something on the road and blew a tire. Well, then she found out that basically all 4 needed to be replaced. Because she had signed in blood, she knew to call first and say, Lynn, this just happened. I need to get 4 tires. Is it better for me to put it on the credit card, or is it better to pull it out of the cash? And I said, let's talk to the lender. Would I know that? No. But I appreciate the fact that she came to me. We were able to go to the lender and say, hey, this is her situation. You've got the details. What's her best way to go? And I don't remember what it was. He advised her. She said, perfect. She was able to go make it happen. But it sunk in to the core because they signed in blood. These are things not to do during the loan process. And why? You were at risk of losing that deposit. You were at risk of getting sued. I don't want that to happen. I'm as serious as a heart attack on this page, which is why I make sure you got it. And they're going, okay. And then they sign in blood or a red pin. They get to choose, right? So basically at that point, the initial consultation part is done. Kind of, sort of. You have a couple more things to do, but basically the initial thrust is done. You cannot move forward really until you find out what their purchasing power is and if they're good to go. Now, y'all know I came from California, which is lawsuit city, by the way. And there was actually an agent years ago. It's on the books. It's still talked about. She contacted an agent. The agent was like, oh, good. Let's go look at properties. So what price point are you thinking? And I'm just going to make up the number for the example. And she says, oh, I want to do $500,000. I've kind of looked at these, and this is what I'm looking for. And the agent says, okay, come on, let's go. And they go out and they look at the price, the homes in that price point. She falls in love with the one. They put an offer in, wrong order. Then she had to go talk to a lender, only to find out, yeah, no, she's qualified at 4, not 5. She goes into stress and mental breakdown because her dream home was taken away from her by this agent that didn't do their job. Oh, it gets better. She sued and won. Mental distress. Because according to California law, the agent did not do their due diligence in the order in which it was supposed to go. And sheen it out, paying out a chunk of money. And of course, when anytime an agent gets in trouble, the brokerage gets in trouble. So they both got nailed. Because the brokerage goes down as failure to supervise. Now, that's California. I know other states. I've heard from other agents in other states that has happened as well with something that's on the books. Does it happen very often? No. But shouldn't have never happened. Again, people want to know you have their back, their best interest, and you're going to guide them and walk them through methodically. Methodically is finding out what their purchasing power is, finding out what their wants and needs are, which is that wants and needs assessment. That's also part of the package. And then once you know that and what their purchasing power is, then you go look for homes. Now, I know I'm stepping on someone's toes because they're going, well, I just always take people out and, I'll take them out to see one home maybe before they, even talk to a lender. Are they a ready, willing, and able buyer? You don't know. They're window shopping. If we're going to go out and waste our time window shopping, I'm going to go look at the good stuff. Okay? We're going to look at the good stuff. Because I don't know what you can buy. It's not my call. It's not your call. That's where a lender comes in. I think I've driven that one home. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to speak to the point in which you suggest to try to get them to sign an exclusive?
Yeah. So the question is, at what point do we get them to sign the exclusive? It is about that time as you're wrapping down your initial meeting with them. You can ask them, okay, so this is what I'm going to do for you. This I'm going to help you through the process. Does this sound like we've got a good plan mapped out? Yes, all right. Our first order of business is I need to know that you are hiring me. But the exclusive right, the way I presented it out to them is this is like an employment agreement between you and I. I know that you are wanting me to do my job. So this is more for your protection, to let you know what I'm going to be doing for you, and my commitment that this is what I'm going to do. Sign here, press hard. If you present it to them that it's for their protection, they're more than likely to sign it. I've had very few in my career that ever squabbled over it. Now, I know some agents that haven't used them at all. So they're out showing property, spending all this time, and then they get the message, because they haven't done a consultation either, that says, oh, I went to an open house this weekend and put an offer in on the house. The agent who was the listing agent who was holding the open house said if I put an offer in, they could pretty much guarantee my offer was going to get accepted. Whose best interest? That listing agent. Okay?
So you presented at the meeting with the consultation?
Yep. Because I want to know that they're serious, and I want them to know that I'm taking this serious. So I kind of turn it that, yeah, it's a little bit about me. Well, then, if there's ever any need over it, I ask, okay, so let me ask you a question. First it's the law, and it is part of our company's responsibility, and it's our fiduciary responsibility, and you as a consumer have a right to know who's representing you and what we're going to do for you. So that is why. And now let me ask you a question. So, Katie, if you were going to go take on a job, okay, at XYZ company, and they said what they're going to pay you, or they didn't even tell you that part, would you show up to work on Monday? No. No, I don't think so either, okay? It is about letting the consumer know that you're out to protect them. You are letting them know what your job is, your responsibility is, what you're going to do for them, and how you're going to work together. So, there you have it. Now, I have heard a client one time, it wasn't to me, because I never had that happen, to another agent that said, well, I'm just going to take them out to show them one or two, and then I'll get them to sign it then. Okay? Fine, whatever. And then, of course, they didn't want to sign it. And that was when I used so are you going to go show up on a job on Monday and start working and then find out that they didn't want you there and you're not going to get paid for it? So explain to me how that makes sense. That's another good question whenever you need that trump card, is to pull it out and say, so explain to me why that would make sense.
But you can also sign a 1 or 2 day exclusive.
Absolutely. You can do a 1 or 2 day exclusive as well. So, yeah. And again, if you're doing the consultation, I tell them the purpose of the consultation is for me to interview you and you to interview me. Are we good? Are we a good match? Can I help you? Can I guide you? And you've just talked about the realistic expectations of what you're going to do and what you expect out of your client. And it's on there. Agree to work with you and work with you only until we get to the point that we find the right home for you. All right? There you have it. All right, so in the consultation, there's a lot of other stuff, but I want to see where we're at on time. Okay. Want to make sure that you understand the logic at this point. Not the details of it necessarily, but the logic. Why a buyer consultation is so important. Why a seller consultation is so important. Because again, it is going to set the tone, the pace, the details of the next step in moving forward. So who's calling the shots? You or them? Now, let me ask you a question. Let's say you needed surgery. Would you show up at the hospital and say, hey, who wants to do surgery on me? You ain't gonna be doing that. You wanna meet the person involved. You wanna have a consultation. You wanna find out that the backstory's been checked. Now, buying a house, selling a house isn't the same as surgery, but it kind of is. Okay. It's a big decision. And you wanna make sure that you are setting the tone of the expectation of the process. Now, your D's are gonna go, damn, you're good. Okay? The I is gonna look at the consultation packet and go, wow, you did this for me? Thank you, I really appreciate this. Will they read it? Probably not. Okay? Your S is gonna go, cool, because you're gonna have bullet points in there. That S is going right on. Your C, same thing. Sweet. And your words of, I'm gonna take you methodically through this process. We're not gonna worry about packing tips and changing your mailing address yet. We're gonna start here, and what I'm gonna ask you to do is work with me methodically through this process from A to Z. Are you okay with that? Perfect. Now they know you're going to walk through methodically. Now, one of the things I always did at the end of every consultation or every appointment or every interaction with my client until they started slinging it back to me, and I loved it. I'd do the happy dance, especially if they couldn't see me. I would say, okay, my next step is I need to do this and this. Your next step, you need to do this and this. When you've got it done, let me know, and we'll go on to the next step. That's what's called being next step obsessed. When your client calls you and says, hey, Lynn, I got this done and I got this done. What's my next step? You are on your desk doing the happy dance, and the people in the office are looking at you like, what the world is going on with them? Because you've got them working in partnership with you to take you through the process methodically and step by step. There, you've got it, all right? We're not going to worry about X, Y, and Z. We need to worry about A, B, and C up front. And that is, I would always include in my emails, my next step is this, your next step is this. Let me know when you got it done, and we'll move on to the next. They loved it, because they're not going to remember that you told them what to do in step 32. They want, what's my next step? What do I need to do right now? And if there's a deadline or a timeline on it, include that deadline. This needs to be done by boom. This needs to be done by next step obsessed. Okay? As we wrap up, the last little thing I want to share with you on this page 5, rolling on to page 6. It's the after the presentation follow-up. And again, this is only part 1. There's more to come. After the presentation, you've met with them, you decided, yes, we're a good match, we're going to work together. Hopefully you've got the employment agreement signed, if you will, and you are ready to go to the next step. They obviously need to go talk to a lender, because you need to know what their purchasing power is. You are going to take, based off the information you got from the wants and needs, your next step is to start taking a look at what may be possibilities in the market available for them. And that's how you word it. The possibilities that may be available for you. Because again, if they drag their feet for 6 weeks, that property is probably not going to be on the market. So I'm going to start looking at what are the possibilities in the marketplace today. In the follow-up email, and here it is for you, courtesy of Joe Stump, by referral only. When I learned this 100 years ago or 102 years ago, I can't remember, this was powerful. When I would do this either in a letter or an email, for the few times that I was competing with another agent, I often got that listing or that buyer to work with me. And when I asked them why they chose me over somebody else, it was because of this. So I've only made, I don't know, a shootload of money off of doing this. So is it worth it for a shootload of money? I'm going to say yeah. So very quickly and very simply, subject line is, here's what I heard you say. When we met, I asked you what was important, and here's what I heard you say. Dear John and Debbie, it was a pleasure to meet with you, blah, 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 blah. You know, when we chatted, I really listened. Here's what I heard you say was important to you, or what was the ultimate scenario of an ideal house for you. And then you proceed to, in bullet points, or check whatever little icon you want to use, list the things that they said was important. This information will come directly off the wants and needs assessment page that you've completed with them, and we'll go into that in detail when we walk through the part 2 of the buyer consultation. You will go through, okay, this is what I heard you say was important, boom, da-da, boom, da-da, boom, da-da, boom, da-da, boom. So how did I do? Did I get it? Did I hear what was important to you? Blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, in caps, bold, what is our next step? As mentioned, I will customize the MLS search and start taking a look. I need you to contact the lender because my hands are tied until that happens. Yada, 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 close of email signature. There you have it. There you got it. Boom. That's how you close it out. Now, once they have actually completed the lending process and you know what their purchasing power is, you can do the part 2 in a little more detail of some of these other things, but I'll usually highlight quickly to them how we're going to go about the search, not to go alone, if they're going to go to an open house or something else. I asked them, I said, no, I'm going to attach my business card to your forehead. Do you want it stapled or a thumbtack? Tattoo, I can do that too. Permanent marker, okay? They giggle, but they get it. It's okay to have fun with them. Because if they're going to go into something, I tell them the first thing they do is go with my business card. Sometimes I'll even give them a clip where they can clip on my business card to their lapel as they're walking in if they want to go see open houses. Hang on a second. I've done it. Don't laugh at me. It works. There you go. We talk about the, again, in the second part of the consultation, we talk about the 3 ways in which I get compensated. Got to turn in for that one. We talk about the wants and needs. And then I also show them, just quickly, when we go out and view properties, here's the property assessment review that we're going to do. Okay? And they're going, oh, cool. I cover that in part 2. Stay tuned. And then I also let them know what other available free reports are available on my website that they can go view anytime. And I've got them broken down from buyer side to seller side. Okay? Follow up with the email. We are good. There you have it. So where's my microphone, my dear sir? Here we go. We got it. Oh, so questions. Oh, there's one here. He's got one too. Who's got questions? Got a question up here? Hang on a second.
We were talking about, what they are pre-qualified for.
Speak into the mic for me. Yeah.
Yeah. You were talking before when they're going to go to a lender and then they get pre-qualified for a certain amount. Isn't it important also to listen to what they're saying about, this is what my budget is. I don't want to go over this X amount.
Yeah.
$3,000 a month or whatever
Exactly.
the ceiling is.
Exactly.
Not what, they could go to $4,000 maybe. But
Exactly.
They don't want to spend that.
Exactly. That's why my question comes in, what are you qualified for versus what are you comfortable with? And that is the question that I tell them. I want to make sure they discuss that with the lender. What are you qualified for? What are you comfortable in? Because again, if what they're comfortable in, if there's nothing really on the market that meets what they're comfortable, which is their budget, then if we need to go up a little bit, I ask my lender, if we go from this price, I'm just going to use a number for example. If we go from 400 to 425, where does it change? How does it change their payment? That lender should be able to tell you just like that. Then I had that conversation with the client. Okay, so we're not finding what you're really falling in love with in that 400 range. If we go 425, here is what my lender said would adjust the payments. I want you to think about that and let me know if you're comfortable with it. Okay? Because sometimes they do that. You know, they're qualified for 450, 475, but at 400 they're not finding what they like. So if they can go the 425 range-ish, and it's only going to adjust the payments, again, I'm making up the number for the example, $12, they may go, oh, well, yeah, okay. We can do that. That's two Starbucks, you know, or a gallon of gas, who knows. But that was funny. But again, but what it does is you set yourself up to be golden, that you are listening to what's important to them and where they need to be. I used to hate it when agents would go, well, they said they wanted this, but I'm showing them this.
They're pre-qualified for this.
No. You know what? I can't tell you how many times clients have fired their agent who pulled that. And they needed to be fired. I'm just saying. Okay. Speaking to the mic for me. That way they can pick it up on.
When is part 2 going to be available?
When is part 2 going to be available? I'm going to say within the next week to 2 weeks. Okay, so it's coming soon. It is coming soon behind it. Because again, this is not a one and done. It definitely needs to build out. So who else had a question for me? Yeah, question?
You know, you said that the way you figure
Oh, speaking to this for me, honey.
Yeah.
That way they can pick it up.
You know, you said that there's different kinds of people, right? Right over here, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Where does the person that says, I read that?
That's more visual because
visual?
they're reading with their eyes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the person that says, you know, I have to write everything down to remember it, is that also a visual? Or?
It's a mix between the visual and the kinesthetic. They need, and again, we're all of the above.
Okay.
And again, in certain circumstances, we may elevate one or the other, but we're not just one and only one. We're a mix. Okay?
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just wondering.
No, those are good questions. Who else had a question? Anybody? Okay, now we're going to pass the mic, and we're doing what is your aha, what is your takeaway? We're going to start over here. Speaking to the mic so they can pick it up on the recording. What was your aha, what was your takeaway from this?
To really fully understand the different styles. Like I know about the disc, but all honesty, I have never really applied that to kind of mimic or to know my client better.
Excellent.
So that was my aha.
Excellent, excellent. Pass it on over. Aha takeaway.
She stole my aha.
That's okay.
I really think that and the part of listening, don't giving them assumptions, letting them respond to your questions so that you can mirror it and let them know that you're really hearing them.
Excellent, excellent. God, you guys are good. All right, ma'am. Aha takeaway.
This is going to sound lame. My big takeaway is to do a buyer consultation. I'm not methodical with that at all. We'll talk about that. But the same thing with using the disc and using the mirroring with whatever their style is for how they learn. That was good, like I see. They say, I see, I heard, whatever. And then the very poignant point of telling someone who referred a client that this is regarding client confidentiality, that this is all in confidence.
Absolutely.
You drove that home. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Those are good points. All right. Aha takeaway.
It was just a lot of common sense, you know. If it feels like you're doing the right thing, it's probably true. If you get some kind of shady client, you can
Kick him to the curb.
you don't feel compelled
Yeah.
to do anything to, you know, help everybody.
Correct. Correct. And I think that's a good point is, you know, we sometimes get obsessed with if they're breathing and can fog a mirror. We think that, you know, we can get them into the, you know, the buyer seller side. Sometimes they've created a mess that you can't fix. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. But that's, okay, hang on just one second. But that's when, if you have someone that doesn't qualify, one of the benefits of having a really good lender system, oh, they're not up there. Their little logo's not up there. By having a great lender that you partner with, is that you can go to them and say, hey, do you have a program? In fact, this would be a question that all of you should reach out to your in-house lender and say, hey, if I've come across a client, or when I come across a client, because you're going to, that doesn't qualify right this minute, do you have a program, shall we say, that will guide them into building up their credit and their funds or whatever to get them to the point of buying? Now, it may be a year down the road, it may be a year and a half down the road, it may be 2 years down the road. Obviously, you're going to be in this industry for that long. Are you still going to want a paycheck in a year? Sure. So for those that rate this second can't, don't always just kick them to the curb. Okay, Liz will do that. I firmly believe that any of the ones will do that. So definitely use your in-house lender, which are phenomenal, by the way, and connect them and walk through. Yeah, and then part of your follow-up from your database, oh wait, Jumpstart session 3 and 4, will get into information that you can provide them on a regular basis to help keep them on track as well. So there you got it. Good, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, ma'am. Aha takeaway. Okay. Okay.
It was great.
Aside from working with them methodically, how did I do email?
The how did I do email at the end.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a powerful one. Okay, aha and takeaway, and then just wiggle the microphone back.
Okay, so the aha for me is that the online lender might just have 1 or 2 boxes that they fit in, but a good qualified lender has lots of options to choose from. And I know that, but I needed a way to be able to say that to them. And so that's my takeaway also. My aha and takeaway is I can now have the right words to explain it in that way that they can understand.
And you have gotten their permission at the very beginning of the conversation to, may I be blunt and honest with you, tell you what you need to know and not always what you want to hear. And they say, yeah, absolutely, I've never been told no. So when you get to that point, it's like, okay, remember you gave me permission? This is one of those points.
Gives them permission too.
Yep, gives them permission to. Excellent, thank you. Aha takeaway.
There's a lot of great points. I believe one of the things that I like most that took me, that I need to use more often is I do know what the this model is, but how to select the words and mirror them and how to control that conversation to connect with them.
Good point. Good point. Excellent. All right, to the back, our ahas, takeaways.
Okay, so the entire things was ahas and takeaways for me. This is my first class with you.
Oh, good.
And of course, here.
Take more classes with her.
Yeah.
That was a good comment.
Yeah.
That was an aha.
I'm definitely going to be here a lot. Came on the recommendation of Ahmed, and he told me great things. And the entire thing was really ahas and takeaways for me. From the identifying the personalities, which is, I think, very important, the mirroring. I listened to the book, Never Split the Difference. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And this was talking about that. It's a great book. And also the importance of the consultation. I always thought it's important, but I never gave it that heavy, like, importance and presence. It was usually just a casual meeting, but I think putting it this way and even following up with this email really makes a huge impression.
Absolutely.
So,
yes. I'm so glad to hear that.
So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
I love the follow-up email and my next step and your next step as well, which I guess will make it very specific to the point. That I love about that.
And people appreciate it. I mean, it keeps your life in sanity, but it also keeps their life in sanity as well. And always put it in the email as well. My next step is this, your next step is this. And that way, if you get busy or forget, you can come back to that last email and say, okay, based off our last email, this was your next step, this was my next step, I got this done, did you get yours done? Okay, and again, it just walks them through. You're not worrying about X, Y, and Z yet. You're going through methodically, and they absolutely appreciate it. So.
Can I make another observation?
Make it the mic. Thank you, sir.
This is really a question, and I mean, you've mapped out a lot of the good steps and why. But I'm toying or struggling perhaps by the balance between laying all these things out, but not sounding directive and being open to the client. Not giving them the impression that I'm rigid and you got to do what I say because I'm in charge. So that's a kind of a fine line we have to balance and figure out. Maybe we'll learn how to do that as we're giving the presentation and we're getting reactions, but it's just something I got to figure out.
Yeah.
Do you have
Most people are open to, I'm going to say, the guidance. It's not you're reading it verbatim and this, it's more this is kind of the guidelines for us both. And I always included, this is how we work together. This is how we're going to go through this. Is kind of the guidelines to kind of help us maneuver through this. But then it leaves it wide open too for conversations and specifics. And
partnership? I think that's
yeah. But most people are a little bit of a D, a little bit of an I, a little bit of an S, a little bit of a C. And right up front, you don't know what they are. But I'll lay you odds, almost everybody has a very high SC in them, that they want to know there's a system. They want to know you've got it figured out. Okay, so why is there a checklist for anything? Keep you on track. Okay? Do transaction coordinators have a checklist? Do lenders have a checklist? Do we as agents have a checklist? Did I say lenders? Title, do they have a checklist? Does a home inspector have a checklist? Okay, no different. No different, yeah. Yeah, you guys, once you guys have got the whole thing kind of handed to you, that's part of your homework going to be after part 2, is to get with another agent and do kind of a role play out. So you're not afraid of it as well. And again, we call it women's intuition, you guys call it gut instinct. As you start working with the client, you'll kind of know, again, you're not reading the entire thing to them. There's a few pages that are critical and more important that you go to in detail, and the rest of it says, if you're interested in the company information or myself, you can read about it later. Flip over a couple pages.
What I usually work for me for that disconnect piece.
Sorry.
What I usually do in that disconnect piece and try to spill all the the things on them, I email it or send it to them directly. And you'll cover some of the personalities because they'll read everything, right? And I want you to come back with some questions or some things that you want to cover initially, and we'll cover these things first. And then you go into the rest of the spiel.
What's important to you.
Correct. And that works a little bit better because you're already breaking the ice. I'm bringing the value to you, and I'm here to know how we could work together to get it done.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, I think too, the other kind of part that rolls into that is it depends on if it's someone that you know and you know well, don't bypass the consultation. Just say, hey, what's important to you? I know we know each other and we're going to work together, but what's important to you? I want to know. You're still going to do the wants and needs assessment, blah, blah, blah. You can kind of, skip past some of the other stuff, but you still leave them the packet. And I used to tell them, because again, most of my business was repeat and referral. So I used to tell them, if you ever have a sleepless night where you can't sleep, read this cover to cover, it'll put you down. And they would giggle and laugh. But they had it. And again, your D is going to see that information. Will they read it? Probably not. But they're going to go, damn, I appreciate this. This is awesome.
Is there a rule of thumb as to how long a consultation should last before people's eyes start to glaze over?
30 minutes, 30 to 45 max. Okay, the mind will absorb, this is words of wisdom for life. The mind will absorb what the seat will endure. Yeah, that was a good one. A lot of times you're meeting with someone after work, so they've had a long day. You may have had a nap in the afternoon, I don't know, but they've had a long day. So you want to get in and be able to quickly go through. That is why you can either A, send it to them ahead of time, or if it's like now we got to go, you have it at the ready, you go. But what I used to do sometimes too is I have my little Post-it notes, the little arrows, the cute ones, and I would just, as we would flip through, I said, I'm just going to flip through this. I'm just going to give you an overview. This is about the company, about me, if you want to know anything about it. And I'd put a Post-it note on the ones that were the most important pages. And when we do part 2, I'll highlight those for you, and then obviously you customize it. If there's another page that you think is more important based off that client, Post-it note on it. They will go back and read that. Now, your S&C is probably going to read it cover to cover. So, yeah.
Well, I see it as teamwork. I don't see it as me controlling them as such or anything like that. I see it as teamwork because I want this person to work with me.
Yeah.
So I need to sell that in a way that this person's gonna work with me. And if I can share, I also have flashcards.
Yeah.
And the flashcards have terminology that I know is going to be difficult for them. So I have the flashcard and the definition in the back, and I always leave the flashcards with them.
Okay. I'm going to ask, are some of your clients bilingual?
Yes.
There you go. Yep.
Yes.
So you need to be able to, see, I would be no good. I'd have them ordering, nachos and margaritas. But your ability there is amazing, and I always stand in awe of those that have dual languages, that they can communicate in both languages to clientele and explain it to them. And that's important, is you want to be able to, too, if it is a second language, but yet they kind of do English and kind of do the other, there is nothing wrong with taking, and I've had agents do this, it is English on one side, and then the language, the other language on the back side. So if they want to cross-reference it in both languages, they can. Now, through Word, there is a translating document or link that'll translate it. If you are going to do that, make sure that you have gone back and read the translated version in your language verbatim to make sure that something didn't get skewed in the translation that would be offensive to them. So,
For example, I just did one, when I mentioned EMD and earnest money, like, what's that?
yeah, okay.
So that was
Terminology. In fact, on the
terminology, Spanish or English or French,
yep,
or whatever the language
Yep.
that people are not familiar with. So those are the ones that I do.
Yeah.
I make flashcards for them.
yeah. And in the back of the last couple of pages in the packet that you'll have available to you, there is terminology. Because, and how I just introduce that section to them, I don't go through it with them. I just say, based off the industry that you're in, I would imagine you've got a certain lingo and terminology that you use. If you were throwing it at me, I'd go, what? Okay. Our industry is no different. Every industry has its own lingo and abbreviations. So what I've done is I've just done this cheat sheet here for you. It kind of, gives what it is. You have a sleepless night, read it, it'll put you down. So, okay.
Aha takeaway.
Aha takeaway. I think you already got it, yes.
Oh,
Yep, she did, yeah. We got it, okay. Yes, ma'am.
So, a lot of my transactions since COVID has been, I didn't meet my client at all until we're at the table. So those are beautiful because you can connect with someone, their vibes, and you're there with them the whole time. And I always call it steps with Stephanie. So I give them the steps. But my only thing, I just want to make sure I'm covering now that I'm learning more about the disc. So I'm giving them the buyer's consult. We're doing a Zoom call or something like that. But what about the people that they have to feel it? Because they're seeing it, but am I really capturing all my audience?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
That's a good point. So, the question is, again, actually, in part 3 follow-up of doing a consultation, whether it be buyer side or seller side, especially from the buyer side. People are more comfortable now meeting in person. But let's say they're in another state, okay? One of the things we're going to cover in the bonus round, part 3 of buyer consultation is, and I will provide you the PowerPoint slideshow to go with it, is what are the topics that need to be covered. Now, you would then email them the packet ahead of time. If you want to print it and overnight it, you can. You can send it to them in a document and send it to them. But then how to do that Zoom meeting with them so they can see you face to face, so they can hear your voice. You can kind of go through a little bit of it. You can ask them what questions they have. You can talk about how the process is going to go. So that connects that. Now, the other area that comes in handy if we're past pandemic and, you know, again, people are okay with meeting obviously in person, and this has happened. This is why I've included this as part of that training component, is do we get weather around here? Yeah, we do. We get snow, we get ice. All right. A couple years ago, when I was first, even before this company, was teaching a similar platform, and we talked about doing this way. And the reality was there was an ice storm that hit. It could be torrential rains, it could be the snow, whatever. A client had an appointment, or an agent had an appointment with a client. They got to the office. Now, neither one of them should have been on the roads, okay? The agent went to the office waiting for the client to show up. Client didn't show up. Agent is annoyed. Agent tries to call client. Client doesn't answer. Now the agent's really annoyed. Well, the reason that the client didn't show up was because they were involved in an auto accident on the way in weather that they should not have been out in. And their car was in a ditch around a tree. Okay? They were taken off to the hospital, and then finally, after the agent got their, you know, shorts out of the wedgie, yes, I really did say that, sorry. They were annoyed as all get out. Then they felt really bad when they find out that it was their insistence to meet that they were on the road and ended up totaling the car in a ditch. Okay? So there is an option. So when weather kicks in and traveling is not necessarily conducive to safe traveling for you and your client, yes, part 3, I'll go into this in detail more, but there is absolutely no reason that you can't say, hey, I know we've got that storm coming in. I still want to meet and kind of get to know you a little bit and get started. Which are you most comfortable? Do you want to meet by Zoom? Would that be okay for your safety? No, it's for your safety too. But you're putting it for their safety. Are you okay with, you know, having this initial consultation to get us started so I can get started on my part to meet by Zoom? Are you okay with that? Okay? That's where it comes in. And if you go back and if you're going through Jumpstart, I think it's session 2, somewhere in there, I encourage you to set up a go-to or a Zoom account, know how to use it, how to do a trial run with somebody, because, oh wait, here's more pieces of my puzzle. Buyer consultation, being able to do a Zoom meeting, I can get that in there, there we go, connects into keeping everybody safe. Boom, there you have it.
Are you going to do like a seller's consultation?
Yep. Yep, there will be a seller consultation coming as well. Coming up, okay? Awesome, I know we've gone over time. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. You've all got some great aha takeaways. What I would encourage as your homework is take the how did I do email, type it out, save it in a Word document. That way when you're ready to use it, you just do a copy, paste, customize, you're ready to go. Okay? With that, be the Uncola.
Yes.
Be what other agents are too, yes, I'm going to say it, lazy to do. Create that wow factor and go out and be awesome. All righty? See you guys next time. Thank you.